Welcome to the Hymn of Ash and Echo. Tonight's story, a Respite. A story of endurance, fear management, and calculated risk-taking. Larry pushed them harder, all but sprinting from cover to cover now that the streets had been emptied, or he assumed them to be, unless there was another death zombie around, or some other migrated, following the noise, and then stopped after the call ended. But, well, it was a risk he would take if it meant putting some distance between them and that ungodly horde their scuffle made, and get him closer to Mighty. They slowed, sweat pouring down his face, as he leaned out to study Madison Avenue. The left side and the rest of the 58th Street seemed clear, but the view to the right side, the side they needed, was blocked by a construction site. Could we use that? Larry asked himself, urging the rest to cross the street. Barry took point, and only then did Larry realize that the man's jacket had been torn open, particularly around his left shoulder. When did that happen? Larry thought, following them. During the fight. He shook his head. It didn't matter. He saw no blood, so it was safe to assume the nails didn't get through. He needed to stay focused on the task at hand, and that was reaching the old restaurant. That left him with the same question again, to go through the construction site or not. It would offer a good hiding place, for a good chunk of the way, blocking the view from at least one side, but it would corner them, limiting their mobility. Not to mention that the store's glass offered no protection against any zombies that might be inside. Plus, the lights were on. So were the ones in the stores across the street. No matter which they went, Larry and his crew would be glowing targets. Shit, Larry breathed, realizing there was only one option left. Running down the middle of the Madison Avenue. Stay in bus lane, Larry mouthed, pointing at the red striped lane, labeled bus only. Not behind? Anna asked. Larry shook his head, retaking the point. They crouch ran across the bus lane, heads turning left and right, peering behind every parked or wrecked car, and saw nothing. How long will our luck hold? Larry thought, his hands sweating on his spear, as he craned forward, checking the intersection and listening to the distant moans. Louder now, that they were parallel to the car pileup and the horde around it. He turned right, peering into the night, and saw them, at least 9 zombies, rocking and moaning, staying close to the hubbub. Barry jabbed his ribs and pointed. Look, he mouthed. Larry followed his finger, which pointed at the small food and coffee vendor on the corner. The neon sign flickered. Wrap, salad, donuts, and more. His stomach growled, reminding him that his last meal was hours away, and could be hours yet. The pictures of donuts, toasts, and burgers plastered all over the little red cart didn't help. We should eat, Barry mouthed, batting the air for emphasis. Take now, Larry mouthed. Eat later. Fine, Barry mouthed back, walking towards it. Larry grabbed his arm. The man turned his head, eyes bulging. Larry tapped his chest. I'll go. And Anna and Tina. Larry tapped their half-empty bags with his spear. All go? Barry asked. Larry shook his head. You take rest and look, he pointed towards Madison Avenue. Barry shook his head, pointing at the vendor. More food, he mouthed. Let's wait. Larry stared at him for a moment, thinking. Barry had a point. They could take more and spread it amongst more people. No one would be bogged down. Okay, he mouthed at Barry, but I go first. Take 2 first, Barry nodded at Anna and Tina, pointing at the little vendor. Larry took point, and the women followed him as he circled it, slow and careful, peering through the cracked door. Nobody was inside, and the front flop seemed to be down. Larry gestured for the 2 to fan out, as he crept closer to the door, listening. Distant moans filled the night, but nothing else. His hands sweating, his breath ragged, and his pulse raging in his chest as he grabbed the little metal door handle. He pushed it open and jumped back, spear raised, ready to fight. But again, nothing. How lucky can we be, Larry thought, nodding at the 2. Anna nodded back, but Tina stared blankly at him. Larry gestured for her to go inside, but she stood, unmoving, eyes wide and blank. Did the fear make her freeze, clamp up? Anna grabbed her arm, whispering something, and Tina finally nodded. Both of them went inside, leaving Larry to watch over a gigantic street that ended in a horde of zombies. Maybe I should move to cover, he thought, his eyes drawn by the moaning mass again. Yeah, he breathed, taking cover behind the vendor and checking the street. Barry and the rest joined him, most looking around, taking the street in, all but Janet. Doom stared at the floor. Anna and Tina stepped out, holding filled rucksacks. Next, she gestured to the vendor, and Barry and Greg went in. Larry saw it again. Barry's jacket had been ripped around the shoulder blades. Nail-like tears in the man's jacket, possibly his shirt. Did a zombie do that? Larry thought back to the man's scuffle. Did that zombie grab Barry's shoulders? Yes, it did. The man and his ripped jacket disappeared inside, and Larry turned his attention back to the group. The same scene awaited him, everybody but Janet checking the street out. She stared at the ground, her hands trembling on her wooden club. Actually, it was a broken broom handle, taped to other broken pieces to have a tipped end. Not the best weapon they had, but, well, they had what they had. Larry squeezed her shoulder and she shook herself, turning to him. You and Marty next, he mouthed, enunciating the words so she would understand. Janet nodded and followed Marty inside as soon as Barry and Greg exited. Should we scout? Barry asked, putting his rucksack back on. What? Larry mouthed. Ahead. The man made a sweeping gesture. Look. Barry tapped his eye, repeating the gesture. Larry nodded, pointing at himself. I go in, he mouthed. You go look. All of us? Barry asked. Your choice. Barry nodded. Larry nodded, waiting, with his heart in his ears, for the two to finish. He hoped Janet didn't freeze again, or Tina for that matter. Why did she freeze? He asked himself, looking at the woman. She had been fine with antagonizing zombies through a glass door, and she seemed fine, up until the moment she didn't. Did the horde scare her that much? Larry asked himself, and almost laughed. Of course they did. They scared the living shit out of him too, but he tried to keep a level head, tried to think about the road ahead, about Mighty, and it worked, for the most part. Marty and Janet exited the vendor, and Larry went in last. Leah had no bag to put any food in, and eating now was not an option, so he left her behind with the others. The choice of remaining food was not the best. 2 jam donuts, some bagels, a loaf of bread, and a half-eaten sandwich. Larry stuffed it all, except for the sandwich, into his bag and looked around, opening drawers, checking cupboards, and found nothing. Well, nothing edible, until he checked the freezer unit. 3 packs of frozen burger patties, 6 hot dog packs, 2 frozen fish fillets, frozen chicken in a bag, and at least 5 pounds of ground beef. His stomach roared in excitement, even though he had no way of preparing the food. Not now, at least. Should I risk it? Larry weighed his options. To be encumbered, but to have a generous, hot and filling meal at some point, or leave it there. Take only the hot dogs and maybe patties. Fuck it, he thought, grabbing all of the frozen meat, save for the chicken. Larry put his rucksack back on, leaving the cart, with a smile on his face and an overly packed bag on his shoulder, sitting heavy on his back. The weight felt like a wind in the face of the constant moans. Barry and the rest were a bit further away, fanned out, checking the street ahead. Barry and Greg had point, with Anna, Janet, Tina, and Leah behind them. Marty brought up the rear, giving him all clear sign. Good, Larry thought, rushing toward them. A slow and deliberate tiptoeing behind cover could be considered rushing. The rest didn't think so. Marty gestured for him to hurry, as if the ever-present moans didn't surround them, and they hadn't just barely outmaneuvered a gigantic horde less than 20 minutes ago. Are they getting restless? Larry asked himself, gesturing for the group to relax, as Anna led her little squad out of the cover and across the street, to Barry and Greg. A growl broke the night. Larry stopped, blood freezing in his veins, eyes scanning the street around him. but he saw nothing. Barry's head turned left and right, urging them to hurry. Marty rushed out of the cover, beelining straight towards Barry and the rest. The man sure as hell didn't tiptoe, and Larry didn't blame him. He sped his pace up, using parked cars as cover and scanning the street. He never saw it coming, neither did Marty, as a large male zombie tackled the man, growling and snarling as the two hit the ground and rolled. It ended up Marty, nails reaching for his neck, but the man fought back, never yielding or screaming, just grunting as he tried and failed to batter the thing away. Larry sprinted. He didn't think about the loud steps he would make, nor the heavy bag on his shoulders. The only thing on his mind was Marty. The man struggled to push the zombie's head away, teeth closing in. Larry could see it, even from behind. The way its back bowed, its neck craned. The zombie was going for his face. Larry jumped onto his back, stuffing his magazine-wrapped forearm into its jaws. Crushing pain exploded in his arm, a white-hot spike that made his vision blur. He leaned back, using all his weight to peel it away from Marty. The stench of rot filled his nose. As he wrestled the thing away, Larry staggered, trying to grab his screwdriver. The thing still in his arms, failing and snarling, kicking and punching. Anna was there in a second. Her screwdriver punched through the thing's skull. The zombie went rigid in his arms. All the flailing mass suddenly went still and dropped down, pulling Larry with it. His knees hit the ground hard, and the zombie's jaw loosened. Larry slowly, deliberately, removed his hand from its mouth, so the magazine and tape wouldn't rip on its teeth, now that it was dead. Barry put a hand on his shoulder as Greg helped Marty up. "You good?" Barry mouthed. Larry nodded, checking his aching forearm. The magazine held. "Thank God," he breathed, letting himself sit on his haunches, the dead thing still leaning on him. "Off me," he mouthed. Barry, Leah, moved the damn thing off him, helping him stand. "Thank you," Marty mouthed. Larry waved the man away, looking at the dead zombie. Why didn't it react to the phone call? Are we getting too far? But no, then there would have been more than one, grouped together, drawn in by their own shuffling steps and moans. Barry pushed him to get his attention. "We need to move," he mouthed. Larry nodded, returning his attention to the thing. Why didn't it react to the noise? Why didn't it first, back when Tim bumped the car? In his mind's eye, he saw Tim get swarmed, then disappear beneath a mass of growling and bloody zombies. Could they be deaf? Larry asked himself. Anna grabbed his shoulder, gesturing for him to move. Larry nodded again, not taking his eyes off the dead thing. She tugged on his shoulder again, as moans filled the night. Larry pushed her hand away, crouching down, patting the zombie's pockets. In its back pocket, he found its wallet, and in it a Texas driver's license. Larry flipped it around and found the answer to his question. Code 5 printed on the back, with a simple description: deaf. Good to know. Larry pocketed the license and moved to follow the rest towards their first resting spot. If you enjoyed the story so far, please consider subscribing and leaving a like. If you're wondering why I sound a bit off today, I have a cold. So, yeah, back to the story. Larry caught up to them, passing them, and retook the point. Barry again on his left side, as they crouched at an intersection. No zombies around, and they were only 2 blocks away from the restaurant, 2 blocks away from a meal and a break. But his heart didn't feel it. It beat too fast and loud as the adrenaline of the fight left him. Larry pushed it down, rushing over the open street, eyes darting around, seeing nothing but dead bodies littering it. They reached a parked car and crouched down, listening to moans filling the night. No more growls or snarls or running steps, but he heard bumps again. There were zombies nearby, more than one. Their luck had to run out eventually. He tapped his ear, pointing into the night. "Bumps?" Anna asked. Larry nodded, gesturing for them to be watchful and careful. Barry made a face, lips turning down and eyebrows rose. "What?" Larry mouthed. "We are careful," Barry mouthed back. Larry shook his head and continued. His heart still pumping like mad, his arms still aching. I should have used the left hand, he thought, flexing his right hand on the spear. Pain shot up it like dozen tiny needles. Next time, he thought, slowing at the intersection. And there they were, 4 zombies to their left, shambling and moaning, as they bumped into each other and the parked cars. They were straying too far from each other. Barely 10 feet from the corner, Larry used as cover. Around, Larry gestured to the other side of the street. Barry gave a thumbs up and took the point. Larry took the man's left, facing the rest of the intersection, as they rushed over. He saw 2 zombies on the right side of Madison Avenue. On their side. Shit, he thought, crouching beside Barry, and looking down the 60th Street. No zombies in that direction, but that wasn't surprising. Their little scuffle and the phone call took place on Park Avenue, drawing all the zombies from the surrounding streets. Larry turned back to grinning Barry. "What now?" he mouthed. Barry mimed, stabbing the air. Larry shook his head, gesturing for them to go around the zombies. "No fun," Barry mouthed. "Park is left," Larry pointed towards it. "And rest." "No fun," Barry repeated, letting Larry take the point. They crossed the intersection, eyes glued to the 4 zombies on the 60th Street. But they didn't turn, just shambled and rocked back and forth, unable to stand still, always moving. Larry didn't know why, and he frankly didn't care. All he cared about was getting home and taking a moment to breathe. He reached the first parked car and immediately changed directions, crossing the large avenue, using the abandoned cars as cover. The rest followed, as he led them in a large circle around the 2 shambling zombies, only to run into a dead one, its skull crushed in. Larry slowed, looking at the parked and abandoned cars. There he saw them, 3 men, armed with pipes and knives, studying the 2 shambling undead. How did they kill the 3rd one without drawing their attention? Larry asked himself, watching them creep forward and fan out. Why were they attacking? Larry's eyes widened and his stomach dropped as he watched them close in. He stood there, unsure of what to do, watching the 3 morons stand and swing. Just simple pipes, nothing taped to them for extra lethality. Just basic melee weapons, like his wrench. And like his wrench, they needed more than 1 hit to get the job done. But the 3 seemed to have it all planned out. The 2 on the right engaged one with a vicious blow to the head, and the one on the left pushed the 2nd zombie away, allowing them time to deal with the first. The only problem? The 2nd guy on the right missed, and Larry could do nothing but watch as the 2nd zombie rushed in, rejoining the fray. "Move," he mouthed, grabbing Tina's arm and pushing her ahead. "Far away," he mouthed, as he and Greg pulled the frozen Janet along. The whole group rushed away, all but Barry, who lagged behind, watching with glinting eyes as 2 more men emerged from the darkness. Larry turned, grabbed the man, and dragged him along. He didn't fight back, eyes glued to the fight behind them. Growls tore through the night, and another zombie came rushing in. Then another. Larry turned to see 3 more people rushing into the street. The scuffle turned into a fight, knives, hammers, and pipes against claws and teeth. He didn't care who won, he only cared about the mounting growls. At least 3 more in the distance, far away from them and their path. Fools, Larry thought, reaching the corner, looking up to 61st Street. At their designated resting spot, and a dozen zombies shambling around it. Shit, he thought, turning back. The 6th zombie from the 60th Street joined the melee, as well as 3 more from somewhere else. 2 men managed to climb atop a truck, using the pipes as pole arms, smashing heads as their friends fought for their lives. Fuck, he thought, his mind racing. What to do? Where to next? Falling back wasn't an option, not with the chaos the idiots brought. Why did they engage? Larry asked himself, watching the men fight for their lives. A child crawled from underneath the truck and ran off, into the night, into the growls. Move, he told himself, running across the intersection, hiding behind abandoned cars, watching both the front and the back, eyes darting to their left, to the massive horde. Luckily, their moans, shambles, and bumps were too loud for them to hear the scuffle. Fuck, Barry breathed into his ear, and Larry spun, ready to smack the man for speaking, but he froze, One of the men on the truck held a gun, pointed at the zombie. Fingers strained on the trigger. The muzzle flashed. The gun roared. The sound tore through the night, echoing around them and filling their ears. Fuck! Larry slowly turned to a dozen sprinting zombies, growling and snarling as they flew through the street, swinging around the abandoned cars like a tidal wave. Larry crouched down, watching the mass move, hardly believing his eyes. Anna poked his ribs, and he shook himself, looking at her. She urged him to take the Madison Avenue to get away, but his mind found a better solution. Larry pointed up the street, towards the park, towards their designated resting spot, and away from the action, into the incoming horde, rushing out of the park and down the street. Her eyes grew wide, head shaking. Larry grabbed her shoulder, nodding as the first wave of zombies rushed past their hiding spot. Another gunshot, then another toward the night. Larry pushed on, behind the parked and abandoned cars. An ever-growing horde rushing past them. Zombies bumped into the cars they used as cover. They sprinted, growled, and snarled as they rushed their prey down. A man screamed, and the undead things howled like beasts, trampling each other to reach their prey. Larry didn't waver, nor did he stop. And good that he didn't. Another mass of zombies rushed over Madison Avenue, right around the cars they used as a hiding spot. A snarl rose over the growls. Then a shape tumbled across the car hood. A zombie landed hard in front of Janet. She froze, eyes wide, mouth open. A scream rose in her throat, sharp and thin. Larry's heart dropped. He couldn't move. Too far, too slow. Marty tackled Janet down, clamping a hand over her mouth. The sound still leaked out. Barry's spear flashed, the screwdrivers punching through the skull. Two nearby zombies stopped, heads turning, eyes locked on them. Another zombie rushed between the cars, straight at Tina. The woman stood there, eyes wide and terrified. Leah pushed her aside. Greg's hammer crushed the thing's skull, the curved edge breaking the bone with ease. More guns and screams echoed as Larry and Anna took the third one down. She tripped it and he killed it, leaving them exposed to the rushing horde. Down, Larry mouthed, pointing down and hoping, praying the others hadn't seen them. A child's scream rose in the distance. Larry and his people crouched and waited, ready to spring up at the moment's notice. But the others haven't seen them, too blinded by their frenzy. Lucky, Larry thought, pointing forward. Move. Barry was the first to do so, winking as he ran past. The others followed, more sluggishly. They reached two parked trucks right across the restaurant. Larry now at the rear, next to Tina and Leah. Both women were pale and breathless, but alive. He clapped Leah's shoulder, nodding and smiling. She didn't even try smiling back, her whole body shaking from fear and adrenaline. Me too, he thought, eyeing the snarling mass rushing past him. More screams filled the night, as the wave of zombies turned into a trickle. More gunshots tore through the night, as the two last zombies rushed past him. Larry waited for a beat longer, eyes glued to the park and the 5th Avenue, but nothing else came at them, or, well, at the sound the idiots made. Gone, Barry mouthed, pointing up the street. Larry nodded and rushed over the street, head turning left and right, watching for stragglers. There were none. In fact, as he checked the corner of the 5th Avenue, he realized that there were no zombies left on the street. None close by anyhow. Larry gestured for the rest to follow as he slowly opened the glass door of the abandoned restaurant, entering a decorated room despite it being under construction. The rest followed him as he took the scene in, listening for the moans and growls, but there were none. Barry passed him, a pack of smokes in his hand. You want one? The man whispered. Let's wash up first, Larry said, feeling his heart ease. You have just listened to A Respite, a short story from The Collapse. If you enjoyed the story, consider liking and subscribing. And now, the blooper reel. The two on the right engaged one, with a vicious blow to the head. And the two on the right engaged one, with a vicious blow to the head. Vicious. The two on the right engaged one, with a vicious. I guess it's coffee break time again. Jesus Christ. No more growls or snarls or running footsteps or running steps. But he heard bumps nearby. But he heard bumps again. But he heard bumps again. Jesus Christ. But he heard bumps again. But he heard bumps again.